Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel reacting to it. I'm Dika. So last time on Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, we got to see more of the developing relationship between Narumi and Hirotaka. They went to the event together, he was there, he was by her side, and it was actually quite nice, and he was feeling a little bit jealous in terms of how she acts with him and how she was acting with her customers, and he kind of did feel jealous. He thought that, you know what, I assumed it was that, but also the way she is, there's never, I don't get the feeling there was ever that sort of romance yet between them. And then obviously we had that, oh my gosh, hilarious scenario when he invited her around. She assumed that they were going to get it on, and she was so worried and fixated, which is actually a common thing that does happen, and you realise that, damn, you know, I'm going around my partner's place, you know, what underwear am I wearing? And he was there just to play games, really. Not literally games, but literally video games. And then eventually she didn't realise that he also invited around Kabakura and Koyanagi. So it became, I was going to say a foursome, but not like that. It became just all four of them hanging out, having fun. And at the end of the night, they both shared a kiss. Obviously after she told him that, I want you to be honest with me and open with me. And you know, it's not fair. At the end of the day, whatever we shouldn't have to hold back our feelings for one another, so I want you to tell me. And there was a comment that she made in terms of why she was so nervous just being around his house. At the end of the day, he is a man, you know, she sees he is her childhood friend, but he's still a man who has these sorts of feelings towards her, or a woman in this case. So he did even say to her that, I'm a guy, I'd want to kiss you. These are probably sorts of things he's been thinking about but hadn't known how to execute. But yes, here we are with episode 4. Oh. She's probably watching something.
いい年してセーラームーン。R は青春なんだよ。泣くでしょ。さすがに会社では見ないし泣かねえ。やばいわ。
Why they crying?
ずっとくらいやばいわ。だろ。
The nostalgia just hits differently. I actually love all the references they're making, because that's essentially my childhood too.
美人じゃん。
いや、照れるな。
いやいや、右の子な。
でもこれコスシャですよ。
コスプレでもいいから紹介。
Isn't that Hirotaka?
お嫁に行けちゃう。
Is it of him?
なにこれ、デレデレじゃないですか。気に入ったから待ち受けにしちゃった。
おい、何見せてんだよ。
Oh, they're gonna fight again.
このブスどうにかならねえか、おもせ。
私はただカバクラと同じ趣味を共有したいだけなの。
小柳の趣味を否定はしねえ。だが共有が可能かどうかは別問題だろう。俺、コスプレは見る線なんだ。恥ずかしいんだよ。人様に見てもらうほどの面じゃねえんだから。なあ、ニフチ、お前も何か言ってくれ。やったんですけどね。特に何も思わなかったです。お前らには届かないのか、俺の声は。
オタクは総じて恥ずかしいものでしょ。あんたのそのオタクのくせに常識人気取ってるとこがムカつくのよ。
一般人から変なレッテル貼られんだろうが。こそこそなんてしてねえよ。節度をわきまえてるだけだ、お前と違ってな。
なるたちはいいね。喧嘩しない仲良しで。ひろたかはゲーム、私は漫画やアニメ。それをお互い尊重っていうか許し合う。
俺もなるみのことはもう手遅れだと思って諦めてます。
どっちが手遅れか教えてやろうか。
いや、ぶっちゃけ 100% でした。黙ってる、ニフシ。
とりあえず自然な感じで撮ってみよっか。あの取引忘れたの。じゃーん。これカバクラ先輩ですか。
何に釣られたんです。竜出し会議のスケールフィギュア。
Oh, it's a figurine.
どうでした。おっすおっ
っす。お仕事帰りに飲みに行かない？本日はなんと樺倉さんも一緒です。小柳さんにも声かけてみて。残業したらぬっ飛ばすを。
バグってないよ。あいつもともとよく喋るしひょうきんだよ。乾杯。こうやって仕事帰りにみんなで飲むの初めてですよね。
だいたいね、あんたたち付き合ってんだからさ、もっとイチャついていいんじゃない？ただでさ色気がないんだから。
そういえばお二人はいつからお付き合いされてるんですか？
高校終わりくらいか。
そうね。kabakura倉の卒業式の日だったかしら。
So they've been with each other a long time.
ハンカチありますよ。
じゃあニプジ君拭いてくれる？
いいんですか？
今日はもうジュースにしとこうな。
First drink.
花子って呼べよ、いつもみたいに。
甘い顔してりゃ調子こいてんじゃねえぞこの動物が。
Oh my.
知ってるわよ、それくらい。ちょうどなるみたいな子がドタイプなんでしょ。
Oh shit.
ここは一つお互いの好きなところを言い合って仲直りしよ
胸がでかいところ。
あんたの好きなランカにはなれないわよ。
It was Ranka his ex.
う。花ちゃん待ってよ、花ちゃん。ちょっと落ち着こうね。
Aww.
無理。このままじゃいつか愛想つかされちゃうよ。
すごい。
That's funny.
一緒にいるとどうしても考えちゃうんだよ。趣味だと一般人と付き合うの難しいからオタク同士で楽だから付き合ってるのかな。
変わる。
先輩。
野暮は予想ぜなるみどん。
今いいとこだろうが。
どうなのよ。
そうだな。お前より楽で可愛いオタク女探せば5万といるだろうぜ。
あっそう。じゃあとっとと探しに行けば。何よ、すぐブスって言うくせにめんどくさいって言うくせに
Aww.
クソが。
聞こえてんぞ。おい、なんでお前まで泣いてんだよ。
どうしたの？
前の彼氏もその前も最初の人もそうだったな。オタクが原因で振られたんだよね。でもやっぱり理想の異性とは違うんだよね。お互いオタクってことで少なからず妥協してるとこあると思うし。
オタクだから楽だから好きなことしてる時のなるみが大好きなので。
お前私のこと好きだったのか？
あ、やっぱ前言撤回。もうちょっと考えて喋ってほしい。
Aww.
ねえ、このままゲーセンでもどうよ。
西口で OK。
So that was episode 4, and I really liked what we saw in the beginning there when Narumi was getting nostalgic about watching Sailor Moon, and even though Hirotaka was making fun of her, he ended up crying as well. So I couldn't remember, I think it was Dragon Ball Z or something they were watching, but that was really funny. So we see Kabakura and Koyanagi arguing because Koyanagi wants to get Kabakura to cosplay more, and he was like, no, I don't want to. And a lot of interesting things are brought up across this whole thing about how, you know, she says that, you know, you're an otaku and all otakus sort of cosplay, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And he was like, you know what, you should be ashamed of cosplaying. He's like, even though I'm an otaku, I like to do it in moderation. And there were loads of interesting topics about what it is to be a full-fledged otaku, what could you do, what shouldn't you do, and those are the sorts of things that were going back and forth between the both of them. Obviously you had the mediators, Hirotaka and Narumi, that were trying to mediate the situation. You know, she was trying to say that, why don't you just do it once, you know, because you're an otaku, why are you so against it? And he was like, I've got my own interests, and the fact that you like it and I don't mind seeing other people doing it shouldn't completely invalidate that I still like it, but I'd prefer not to do it. So this is what was going on, going back and forth, and they potentially, both of them but their arguments end up getting quite fiery. So at this point, poor Narumi was trying to mediate the situation, and when I think it was I forgot who asked who, but I think it was Koyanagi that said that, you guys are lucky that you don't have these sorts of issues in terms of having to argue like this. And Narumi did say that, me and Hirotaka have different interests. I was always into anime and manga. He was always into gaming. And I completely respect his interests. I completely respect him doing what he does. And I like to do what I do. So there's no case for argument. But then Hirotaka likes to throw a spanner in the works and just talks about how that Narumi's too far gone to be saved, which obviously doesn't rub Narumi the right way. That was hilarious. So after work they decide to go out for drinks, all four of them, and this again, after one or two drinks, and as Koyanagi wants to get to know a bit more about her co-workers, more love life, things heat up again as they start arguing, and the argument between Koyanagi and Kabakura heats up. We get a chance to find a little bit more about their relationship, which I like. So Kabakura is a year older than Koyanagi, so on his graduation, that's when they essentially started dating from. So when they were about 18, 17 respectively. So they've been together for a very long time, about 10 years, both of them they've been dating. So that's why when Narumi was trying to get Kabakura to sort of settle down and apologise, he was like, it happens between us, we've been together for a long time, we just tend to argue. So both of them getting drunk, or as they were drinking, didn't help the situation any further, because certain things from their earlier high school days, I'm assuming, or dating life had come up. I think the name Ranka was brought into this, so she was going on about how, I go for the prince types, the pretty boys. And he was like, same here, I go for the sort of sweet, petite sort of girls. And then obviously Koyanagi had brought Narumi into this, saying, yes, she's the type of girl that you'd go for. Before I go on about this, I forgot to mention that she eventually got him to cosplay, and I think she bribed him with a figurine that he couldn't refuse. So that's how she was able to finally get him to eventually do it, and she set everything up in her house to make sure it went off without a hitch. So as they were going back and forth about this, she was about to, I think, punch him, and then she brought up this name, Ranka. Then she had enough. So she'd got up to leave, and he was trying to call her back. She wasn't having none of it. So Narumi went out there, and at that point, trying to calm her down, because she was in tears. And she did mention, again, a couple of very interesting things about how it's, I understand that he's probably making compromises for being with me. What if he was into someone else? What if he wanted someone else? And he always sort of reminds me of that, what if he's only with me? Because he does always, when they argue, he always calls her an old hag. He always calls us these sorts of words. So I think it was at a point that it was starting to affect her. So eventually Kabakura had come out to talk to her, to apologise to her, and they were able to make up finally. But there were a lot of stuff that she said, and I think Narumi was thinking about that afterwards. So after they had left, she mentions these again. She was like, sometimes I just think, what if we're sort of with each other? You must be making compromises being with me, and I understand that. And I forgot to mention, when Narumi and Koyanagi were talking, she was remembering that the situation where all her previous boyfriends dumped her when they found out she was an otaku, and she was like, I don't want you to be with me for this just because I am another otaku, because that's kind of what he said in the beginning when he said, I'm an otaku, I don't care what you do, I respect that you're into it. And I think she's like, I can understand you're making compromises for the sake of being with me. And he said, actually, I'm not with you because you're an otaku or whatnot. I'm with you because I enjoy the fact that you like what you do, and I could respect that. In other words, he has no judgmental feelings towards what she's into, what she likes. He likes her for her, regardless of what her hobbies are outside of that. And obviously Narumi was like, you actually really like me. And I do agree that he's never actually said that to her, to say that, what, I don't care what you're into. I know they tease each other for their respective otaku-ness, but he's never said that I like you just because of you, regardless of what you're into, and I'd still like you for your interests. So yes, that was it. That was such a nice, cute episode, and I did like that we got an opportunity to get a cusp of Koyanagi and Kabakura's relationship. And I like that we got those parallels to see that essentially it goes much more deeper in terms of the certain, I don't know, you could say levels of otakuness and what you're meant to like and what you're not meant to like, and it's definitely weighed on her mind a lot more. I said because they've been dating much longer, Koyanagi is very aware of what each of their interests were, what each of their interests currently are, and could that potentially have made an impact in their relationship in the long run, or had done in the long run. So I did really like how they touched upon those things. But that was it. If you did like this video, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts of this episode was. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.